All right. It is my pleasure to welcome you to our presentation on augmented teachings today. Todd and Brandi have a spiritual podcast and radio show. Let's give them a warm welcome.
Awesome.
Wow, thank you guys. That was a lot of fun.
Thank you. Fun. Thank you for having us here, and this is an amazing experience already.
Yeah.
And, we haven't started yet.
I know. We get really excited. So you guys may know we both love to talk, and so we have developed a podcast and radio show where we get to do that, and we get to talk about things that
inspire us to think better, feel better, and in turn be better. So I'll start.
Yep.
My name is Todd Michael Jackson. And I've been an NDE researcher. For people who know what that is, that's a near-death experience researcher for the last 10 years. And it answered a lot of questions that I had about God and the afterlife in a really fundamental, easy to understand way. And that's what I want to bring to people. You know, I try to rest assure people that things are okay and things are going just as planned. And I want to give everybody an understanding of what is expected, so you can make your own decisions on what you need to do in this lifetime. So.
And hey y'all, I'm Brandi. So most of you guys know me, but if you don't, so I am a metaphysical practitioner. So I practice all things metaphysics. I'm not a licensed practitioner, but I do practice. And I've been on my spiritual journey for about 7 years, but really my whole life. And all of the classes that I've taken, all of the books that I've read, I'm a co-author for a book called The Big E Power, and that is something that's very dear to my heart. And so with my background, my intuitive knowledge and understanding mixed with his experience, we bring this understanding. So we are augmented teachings, we augment each other. So he has his way of bringing things, and then I augment it in a spiritual perspective, and then vice versa. So. Yes. Where I deal more with like energy and mindfulness and affirmations and things like that. He's got the why and I have the how. So he's like the why guy. And who am I?
The how gal.
The how gal. Because we talk about meditation and mindfulness and how we can really ground ourselves to bring a clearer perspective of life. So That's what we do.
So let's start. So when I first started my journey, I didn't know if there was a God or not. So when I went to NDE researching, I found out what God really is. And God is an ocean of benevolent energy. And we would be a grain of salt within that ocean. God is everything, and everything fits within that ocean. Every universe, every dimension in every universe fits within that ocean. God is all there is on the other side. All right? Some people can find God here, but I'm using it as a fundamental way. All right, because people think God's outside of themselves, so I'll just use that terminology. When I say God, I mean spirit. I also mean source. Okay, so and God exists everywhere, and there is nothing else but God. Now, it's so permeating. God is omnipresent because, in the simple fact that the energy that is God actually creates matter at the atomic level. If you remember when you're in high school or junior high and you're drawing an atom and you have the nucleus and you have the electrons going around, they don't go in circles, they vibrate. And that vibration of every atom, that energy comes from God. So there's nothing else but. If you look at science, science is actually the manipulation and understanding of God's atoms is all it is. So science and God are the same. We just haven't gotten there as a society yet. You know, when we bring that together, that doesn't matter what we find out in science, it's still God, because God creates at the atomic level, and there's nothing below that. So the first thing I want to explain about the afterlife, because a lot of people always ask that question. Where do we go? What do we do? Right? First thing we do, we're led to a place where we see our past life review. Our past life review is where we relive our life from the moment we enter our vessel all the way to the moment that we leave. And we relive every single thing because all our five senses are being recorded at the same time. And with God's input, God records differently. We record with our five senses. God records vibrationally. So when we watch our past life review, God's input is put on top of it. So you feel how you treated everybody and how you felt in those situations and how you made everybody else feel.
Because it's all energy
all-
and vibration.
all energy.
So when we're outside of these physical vessels, we still carry on into that energy, and so we are able to feel more of that outside of these physical vessels.
Right. So imagine if you're watching a TV show and somebody was going through a heartbreaking scene, you'd be able to actually feel it firsthand, not watching it at a distance. So it's very important. The most important thing I tell people is watch how you treat people. If you treat people with dignity and respect and kindness, you're well on your way. Doesn't matter what religion you are, doesn't matter who you pray to, it's how you treat others. Because at the end of your past life review, you are not judged. God will ask you if you are ready to come back, to stay, to leave this classroom called Earth. And you will, if you've done a good job, you'll say, yes, I'm ready to go. There's nothing left to learn. But if you've lived in judgment or fear or anger, then you may ask to come back and correct these situations that you would have within yourself. So there are two purposes of life. Everybody wants to know what the purpose of life is. The first purpose of life is God is not here, we're not here. God is the creator, we are the experiencer. God cannot experience without us, and we cannot experience without God's creation. So it's a beneficial situation for both of us. We are doing God's work, having these experiences. When we return back home, we share these experiences. Memories don't last a lifetime, they last an eternity. So we can share, use them in different situations where we can go into classroom settings and we see where we've made mistakes, and then didn't make the mistake. And that's why we bring all this information back, because we don't learn just here on these planets, on Earth. We actually learn back home too. Some souls never come to Earth. It's too difficult. But here, it's a fast track to learning. If you can learn here with absence of the knowledge of God, you learn faster, and that's why we choose to come here. It's a fast track to soul development. And that is the second purpose of life, soul development. And we will keep coming back here until our soul says, I'm okay. And if not, a soul will choose to keep coming back over and over and over again to correct the mistakes of the vessel. Usually what happens is a younger soul will have a harder time over compensating the dysfunctionalities of the vessel. The vessel lives in fear, judgment, hate, greed, and then the soul will have to fight against this. A younger soul will have a hard time fighting against this. But as the soul returns more and more and more and more, then it becomes dominant over the vessel and is able to control it. That's why sometimes you see certain religious people, and some will gravitate towards dysfunction and division, and some will gravitate towards love and acceptance. Within the same religion, it just depends on the age of the soul, because we're not all the same age. Some souls have been here 5 times, 10 times, 50 times, 100 times. And the older the soul, the higher likelihood that they will gravitate towards love and acceptance. And they will find and seek out scriptures as such, or information as such.
Is it because those older souls have a deeper understanding because they've been through those experiences so many times?
Yes. Basically, it starts with, like, there's certain things that we learn as we work through different situations. Say you have somebody that's racist. Say somebody that's white, and they belong to a racist situation, right? They have a racist situation within their life. They may choose in the future, when you see your past life review, you see all potentials. So you may see a potential where you can go ahead and become the ethnicity that you overly scrutinized. So you can learn through firsthand knowledge of the struggle.
On a soul level.
On a soul level. So he may come back African American, so that that soul can correct. That's why you see some people who are very prejudiced, and some white people who are not prejudiced at all. Those souls have been around the block. They've been these other ethnicities. They've been these other religions.
And they understand that we're all one.
They understand we're all one. Maybe not firsthand knowing, but just it's innate within them.
Right, their soul knows.
Right. They don't have judgment for anybody or anything. And that's why sometimes that happens. But a soul will eventually correct itself over lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, because they'll see a potential to where this soul would have stayed white, their racism would have got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. So they'll make the adjustment eventually to change, whether it be through race, religion, because sometimes religion, you have a religious bias. I'm this religion, and these religious people are bad, and these religious people are bad. You may ask to go to these other religions, so you can
have that experience,
to have that experience to realize that that's not the case. That's just you've been led to believe to keep you segregated, to keep you separated from others. So one of the things is also with sexism, because there's people that are sexist, right? They've been one gender many, many, many times. And they get more dominated in that gender. And then eventually they'll make that transfer over to the other gender. And when you do that, then you start to heal that one-sided thinking, right? That if you're a woman, all men are bad, right?
Right.
You correct that. The problem is that if a soul has been a female many times in a row, and they're like, oh, I'm going to correct this and become a male, they may not identify as a male. They may still identify as a female. And that soul will be homosexual. Or maybe not homosexual, but carry some of the properties or ideals of being a female. So that's one of the questions that gets asked all the time when people pass over. Why is my son? Why is my niece? Why is this person homosexual? It's because, and the angels answer the same every single time. Because that soul had been born the other gender many times in a row and still identifies as that gender.
So the soul identifies as a certain
gender, because we develop, well, there's two sides of our soul. There's male aspects and female aspects. And we come here and we work on those individually, because we can't come as both.
Right.
But we go back and forth. And the thing is, sometimes you spend a little too long in one gender because there's so few places to make the transition. You can't go to certain countries and be homosexual. So there's only certain pockets where you can make the transition. So a lot of times people will wait a long time. And when they do, then you have homosexuality or LGBTQ. Sometimes it's not sexual at all. Sometimes they just like cross-dressing, but not sexually attracted, to the opposite, to their own sex.
Yeah.
So it just depends. It varies. It varies depending on how many times that person has been one gender and made the transfer over. So there are certain things, so you can't really judge a person for going through that, so to speak. But there's also things that we look at where it's easy to judge, right? It's easy to judge somebody, and it's hard to overcome it. And we'll go through a certain situation. There's a person named Bob, all right? Bob's in prison. He committed murder, all right? Now, this person, Bob, is a bad man or evil man, did a bad or evil action, right? But then you explain that this soul is younger. This soul had to learn this, all right? And he's going through his learnings. Every old soul on this planet at one time had been a young soul. So we can't judge. They're allowed to learn at their own speed and their own pace. With God's unconditional love comes infinite amounts of patience from God. So we don't have to worry about timing, all right? But with this person here, you can say, okay, maybe it's not a bad person, because you can't blame a second grader for not knowing algebra.
Right. I know if you think about it like that, we're all growing in this classroom on planet Earth, and we're all at different levels.
Right.
And so some souls may be a kindergarten level, some may be, a 12th grader. And so we can't get mad, or we can't judge the kindergartner for not knowing algebra or whatever that is. And
right.
So that's part of understanding that we're all going through our own soul's journey. And so when
right.
we judge another person for their actions, we have no idea what their soul lesson is. We have no idea what they're going through. We have no idea their trials and what they came here to learn on a soul level. So that's why we talk about things on how we can work the puzzle of unconditional love, because that's really what we're here for. We are here to learn and embody that love, which is the Christ consciousness for me. That is love. Jesus taught love.
Right.
And Jesus Christ, right? Well, Christ is not his last name. That is the Christ consciousness. And this is all just my interpretation. So, take what you will for that. But when we can really look at things with that understanding, it helps to take the judgment from here to here. We're taking it from, oh my gosh, this person is XYZ. How could they do this? But wait a minute. What if they were in that role to pay some karmic debt? So is it theirs to do? Is it theirs not to do? You know, I grew up with the idea that our life is predetermined and it's all written for us. Well, if it is written for us, then how could we be a sinner? Mm-hmm. You know, how could we do anything wrong if it was already predetermined that we were supposed to do that? So we get into more of that in our podcasts and episodes and stuff, but it's just something to kind of get your mind thinking about different things.
And that's the question that brought me into it. Brought me into this whole thing about maybe I should teach this, because I had a friend ask me, is everything predetermined or do we have free will? Mm-hmm. And I said, super easy, it's both.
It's both. We all have choices.
Right. God knows every potential, but does not know what potential you'll be choosing for yourself.
So all potentials are there, but what we choose to do with our life is
still up to us. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing that got me into it, and I'm like, I want to get back to Bob.
Okay, get back to Bob.
Just for a second.
Pause for Bob. We are going to have a question and answer portion at the end. So yeah. I see some hands like, I want to talk, I want to do something. So we will definitely have a good portion of that. We just want to kind of talk about some things first, and then it'll be your turn.
We'll get there quickly. We will get there quickly. So we finished with Bob, all right? So
okay, Bob, back to Bob.
Maybe the human isn't that bad after all. It's just a young soul.
Right.
All right?
He's here to do what he's here to do.
He has not learned yet. But you say, well, the action was bad or evil.
Yeah.
And then you look at it through a keyhole and you're like, yes, that is a bad action. But then you look at this soul 100 lifetimes in the future, and this soul now has a mentality of a Buddhist monk.
Mm-hmm. We all will get there.
Was this action bad or a necessary step in the development of that soul? Mm-hmm. So you can't even look at the action itself. When we all will keep ourselves in cycles of karma, of violence, and fear and hate, and then we choose to take ourselves out of these karmic cycles, because karma was created by God so that none of God's children will ever be able to get over on another one of God's children, maybe on the short term, but never in the long term. So as we create these situations where we choose to have a bad action, that bad action will be repeated to us, maybe not immediately, but a lifetime down the road or two. Then that soul will have another chance to take itself out of that karmic cycle or keep itself in. Maybe it keeps it in. Then it has another turn. And when it takes it out of that cycle, I'm not going to kill this time. Okay? Now you're out of that karmic cycle. And then that soul will start to learn. So every soul here that has learned to overcome their fear enough to where they don't kill and they're pacifists, that is a soul that has learned by taking itself out of the karmic cycle. Mm-hmm. It has, all of our souls have started with fear, because our souls don't come here just knowing how to control these vessels and overcoming the fear within them.
As a younger soul.
As a younger soul, it takes time.
Yeah, it takes development of that soul.
Every older soul at one time had been a younger soul. And that's why we cannot pass judgment on anybody who is doing these heinous things. Not to say you should invite them over for Thanksgiving dinner. There's something called self-love, and we don't want to put ourselves in that situation, but we have to recognize, okay, this person is a known killer. I'm going to pass, but I'm not going to pass judgment. They're still in the learning curve, and they're not where I want them to be from my experience.
And sometimes that can just be, vibrationally. It's like, right. I may not feel comfortable with this person's energy and vibration. And where am I going to, allow that or not allow that in my life? And so we have to take that self-care and put up those boundaries for ourselves. It doesn't mean I have to judge this person. It just means I don't really want to associate with that energy and that vibration, because I know for me, see, he talks about a lot of, the other stuff. And then I talk about the girly feely stuff. It's not really for girls, but it's the girly feely stuff.
We all get each other. Right.
But for me, it's all about energy and vibration. And so if I am in a certain situation where I can see or perceive somebody as, just vibing kind of low of anger, fear, sadness, frustration, hate, any of those things, I can put up that boundary and just say, I'm not going to be a part of that. And where was I going with that? I lost my train of thought.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I was not.
This is why we like doing live shows.
We're on bad vibes.
On bad vibes, yeah. So also, I know for me being an empathetic person, I can absorb the energy of people around me, of people, places, things, situations. I can walk into a room and it's like, oh, somebody must have just had a fight in here, or somebody, whatever, because that energy is just still there. Earlier today, I was vibing high and I walked through the hallway and I kind of just, I don't know, I had this burst of energy and I felt it, and then I took 2 steps forward and somebody walked in right after me. She goes, "Oh, what is that in here?" And it was like she'd walked into this energy that I just like puffed. I didn't fart or anything, I promise. But like I just like she walked into my energy puff, and she could feel that vibration because it was a high vibe, you know? And
a lot of people here are empathetic. You know, they're empaths. Well, that's one of the things we can do back home is we can literally know what another soul's intention is before they speak, before they even communicate with us. We know everything. And as we evolve the species and we learn how to overcome our vessels, then the skills that we have on the other side of the veil become more prominent within our lives here. It takes work, it takes time, but it can be done.
Oh yeah.
On the other side of the veil, it's amazing. Matter of fact, God's love is so intense that sometimes they will ask the souls that are passing over, will ask the guardian angel to slow down when they're heading up, because the intensity is so much and God's love is so great. And God's love is felt everywhere. And God's music is heard everywhere too. And one of the things that I like to tell people is that there is no hell. There is no other place besides God. You're in God's realm, and God would not have a place where you just suffer. It doesn't happen. We are here to experience and to do God's bidding through our experiences. God would not send us anywhere else except back home, because our experiences are His treasures. It's treasures. God is not a he.
Which ultimately is ours, but
treasure.
we're breaking it down into
right.
the fundamental basics.
Because there are treasures too. Because one of the things with our past life review, we can rewatch our life, but that rewatching is also.
So I want to talk about that though,
okay.
The rewatching part, because sometimes it's hard for me to wrap my mind around that, because again, I'm talking about energy. So everything that I experience in this physical, all of us, but for my interpretation, so I'll say I experience, there's an imprint vibrationally, there's an energetic imprint of that. And so, some people may have heard about like the Akashic records. And so you can think about everything is stored in the Akashic records. That's all of the thoughts, the energies, every experience is imprinted into that. And so when we cross over to the other side of the veil, either through meditation, there are other practices, or if we die and out of this physical vessel and we go back to that, other side of that veil, then we have the ability to tap into that Akashic field. We get to see those experiences that we've had. We get to feel those experiences that we've had. And then we get to share those with other people, because now we're back into the ocean of love. So there is no separation. Right. So if we're having this experience right now, and then when we're on the other side of the veil, we get to share all of this experience. So you guys get to feel what we're feeling. We get to feel what you're feeling, because now we're all in one ocean of love, one ocean of energy. So there is no separation in that. So that's why we think about why, if God created everything, if God is the source and the creator of all, why would God create a place of destruction, of fear, of torture, all of these things? So I mean, no disrespect if people believe in the idea of hell. We don't believe in that. We do believe that we live in a cause and effect universe. Right. And so based off of our thoughts, our actions, there's going to be a consequence to everything, right? And you were talking about karma, keeping everything in balance.
Yes, that was something that I was reading NDEs on. There was one gentleman, he was looking down on earth, and God whispered in his ear, said, "What do you see?" And the man said, "I see nothing but chaos and destruction." And then God touched him and asked again, "What do you see?" And he said,
that connection was made.
After that connection was made, he goes, "I see everything going perfectly. Karma was keeping everything in check, everything in balance, and there was nothing that could be fixed. Everything was already perfect in God's eyes."
Right, because when we look through that little keyhole, we're only seeing one portion, so all I can see is you.
Right.
But then when I broaden my view, then I can see more, so I can understand more, I can perceive more, and then we get to see more of what's going on. More of those pieces of the puzzle are illuminated for me anyway.
Right, and one of the things is, I always tell people there's no hell, but there is vibrationally different parts of heaven.
Right.
There's infinite levels of vibration. So you go wherever you vibrate at. So lower vibrations will hang out with lower vibrations. Birds of a feather flock together, and higher vibrations will hang out with other higher vibrations. And you can go anywhere you want in heaven. You can be a low vibration and go to high vibration, but you won't like it. You just go back to where you like. Where,
And so
where you
speaking
feel
of that,
comfortable. Yes.
speaking about those different levels of, of this place we're calling heaven, how we act and how we live our life is going to determine what happens to us, afterwards, because it's one continuum. So again, that cause and effect universe. So if we are a person of judgment, hate, all of those things, well, guess what? When we go back and we go back to that ocean of love, what energy are we carrying with us? We're carrying that energy of hate, of judgment, of all of these things. And so that's what we are going to experience more of. And we're going to be sharing that with everyone and everything. So that could be a state of hell. Hell is a state of mind. Hell is a state of consciousness. So is heaven. So what are we creating for ourselves, for our soul, for our mind, for our consciousness, for our body, here, there, everywhere? It's
Right.
all energy, and it is all vibration. And so when we can think of God as that, and our experience as that, and our purpose is to bring the best experiences for us to live here in these bodies, here on planet Earth, and beyond, whatever you want to call the beyond. So
Yes, these vehicles are pretty amazing.
they are.
And I want you to think of the body you're in right now. The person you are right now is a movie you can rewatch. A movie you can rewatch over and over and over. The highs, the lows, the dramatic parts, but it's what makes us who we are. Because you can't have these experiences back home in heaven when everything's always good all the time. You can't have these feelings of sorrow or the joy we have from having that sorrow. So that's why we choose to come here. We come here to have the experiences. We're here to develop our soul. We're here to overcome fear, judgment, hate, and learn unconditional love. And it's a puzzle. Everybody's puzzle is a little bit different. And that's what makes every one of our souls that special. And that special little diamond with all the little facets on it is all those facets were earned by us through the work we do. And God's grateful.
Thanks, that was great. So all of our shows that we do on our radio show and our podcast, there's usually a theme, there's usually a couple of ideas that we have in there. And so we've just touched on some of them today. And but I encourage you to check out some of our past podcasts or check us out live on the radio. It's not live, we record it and then they broadcast it, but I meant on the radio station. So if you have any questions or anything on that, how to find us, there's little links on our table. You can scan it. It's really easy, or you can type it in. It's super awesome. So
Question and answers?
yeah, let's open it up for questions, because I want to hear what some of you guys, questions, comments, concerns, anything that you would like to say. We're in the hot seat.
Aren't you on YouTube also?
Yeah. So we have a YouTube channel. You can find us on Spotify. If you have an Alexa or like any of those like Google things or the things you talk to, the little AI, you can say, "Hey Alexa, play Augmented Teachings," and she'll say, "Okay, Augmented Teachings on Amazon Music." I was in my son Vincent's room and I was just messing around and I was, talking to him, and I said, "Oh, hey Alexa, blah, blah, blah." And she answered me and it started playing our show, and I'm like, "Oh my God, we've made it. We're on Amazon Music." So yeah, thank you. But there's lots of ways that you can find us. You can find us on social media, and then, but the main thing that we've been kind of doing right now is our radio show. It's on Talk 960 AM radio, Saturdays and Sundays, and you can listen on your radio in your car or from your phone or your computer. You can go to talk960.com.
You might be able to ask for Alexa to play that.
She maybe, yeah. I haven't done that yet. I haven't played. So yeah,
Okay,
thank you though, Susie.
Yeah, I've gathered some thoughts on soul, that all souls have been created, and that there are no new souls,
Right.
so to speak.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Is that something that?
Well, there's not just one classroom. So there's other classrooms
Right.
where they're not the vessels are not as developed, and they're still working the puzzle. They're still behind us, and there's many classrooms that are way past us, right? And souls work their way through. So you may choose to leave this planet, leave this classroom. I've learned to overcome fear, judgment, hate, and I'm doing really good. Maybe not perfect, but really good. There's not much of a reason to come back. You may stay into the light, go into the light and stay, or you may go to another classroom and develop your soul even farther.
And if we look at, Jesus, Jesus was something so separate from what the idea was at that time. And so we can think of Jesus as such an old enlightened soul that came here to teach love, and we're not going to get into that whole thing because we could be here for another 5 hours, but follow our show and maybe we'll talk about it. Any other questions, Susie, on that one? Are you done, Susie? Yeah? Okay, all right. Yes, Eileen.
Well, a couple of things really popped up really strong about old souls, young souls, karma. You do bad things, you come back, you pay the piper. I feel like there's something so much bigger than just that. So much.
There is.
So transcendent.
Right.
I don't think God's up there going, okay, now.
No, not at all.
Karma's separate from God.
I think this is my interpretation of karma, is that it's simply who we are, what we feel, how much we love ourselves or don't love ourselves. We get pictures out here, and they instruct us. And when I'm judging you, I'm not judging right now, but
Right now.
Right now.
Right now, she says.
if I was, then I could, have an instant karmic drop card that says, where aren't you accepted
Right.
yourself? So I really want to pull in the invitation for love and
Right.
self-love, because when I was hearing you talk about karma, it sounded kind of like a preacher, like,
Right.
you better get your shit together
No.
or you're gonna come back.
There's no judgment.
You're gonna come back.
God, there is no judgment with God, none whatsoever. We keep ourselves in and out of the cycles. We make the choices because we have free will to put out bad energy and receive bad energy, or give good energy and receive good
And
energy.
even when we put out bad energy, it's still, God is love. It's also much
True.
bigger than all this.
True.
Right.
There's a group of Buddhists through time out of time who are called the mishap lineage. And they were murderers and rapists and troublemakers. And they flipped the switch.
Right.
And so when you're saying the bad people, I mean, what if the people who are doing like the most atrocious things and have been through all time are really angels doing that?
And
And I've asked
absolutely.
that question.
So that more people can come together and go, God, I really care about
Right, and that
We've
usually,
actually talked about that,
That
yeah.
usually,
I missed all that.
that usually happens, and that is something. Usually, people that tend to be homeless or destitute are the ones that are actually the highest and oldest souls, because they put themselves in a situation so you can feel empathy and
So
compassion
they lose everything.
on purpose. Asked. God never does anything. God never does anything to you. God only does things for you. So when a person kills somebody, right? And they go back home, they see what they did, the destruction. They will ask God, I need to learn. Please have this repeated back to me. Because when you go back home, you have no ego. Your ego stays with your vessel. So you go back there with humility and humbleness, and you say, I need this to happen. And God loves you enough to allow the mistake to happen to you so you can learn. That soul can learn.
And it's really not a
It's
mistake,
never done to you. You ask for it to happen.
Yeah.
And
On a soul level.
On a soul level.
So would you say that really this whole thing of duality here,
Yes.
right, dark light, male, female, have, not have, whatever, is a creation of our consciousness, because we're just having this amazing experiment.
Right, there's no such thing as good, bad, right, wrong. There's only perpetual learning with karma keeping everything in balance.
Yeah.
Because in my interpretation is all souls will need to go through all lessons in order to become fully enlightened, if you will. I think of it like this pegboard, and all those pegs need to be filled, you know. So that soul's got to go through all those different karmic lessons to learn and embody unconditional love. And so we've talked about sometimes there are enlightened souls that come back, and maybe it's a child, and maybe this child was born and had cancer and died. And some people are like, why did this happen? Why would God let this happen? What if that was an angel that soul was an angel that came here and incarnated, and before it came here in a physical vessel said, I will take that role. I will play that part for this family, for my soul group to come together to whatever it is that they need to learn. So maybe
we call that a challenge life. A lot of times we come here to develop our soul.
Yeah.
Sometimes soul comes here to develop the souls with the
to
soul group.
assist with the soul group.
So I'm going to come here, I'm going to get cancer at 4, I'm going to die at 6, right? But it's going to teach the people in my soul group and touch so many people. We were here hundreds of times. So having a challenge lifetime here and there isn't a big deal for us back home, because we know we return back home. Even though here they scare you that you're not going to return back home if you're this or that, we always do. So we have no problem coming here with these challenges so that we can help the soul group in its entirety.
Yeah. Oh, I have
Thank you so much.
Super duper question. Super duper.
Yeah.
This will blow your minds.
Okay, we'll take your question, and then because we're almost out of time, and then we'll take 2 more after.
Okay, I'll be brief.
Okay, thank you.
And that is, this time was predicted by many, 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 many religions. And I'll just use one. It's called the Kali Yuga. And it's been a 6,000-year cycle of darkenment. In other words, forgetting.
Right.
So, this whole thing about, I think we're going to go into the fast lane.
Yes.
And,
We talk about it.
We say that all the time.
And it's not about those people are getting left behind because they were,
Right.
They farted around and showed up loved a bit, right? We're all going to go.
Right. And that's why people are waking up to God's love and are dismissing the dysfunctionalities of religion right now.
Sure.
And so many old souls are being born now that were like, you know what, I've already done my thing. That was survival energy, that 6,000-year cycle, right? December 21st, 2012 was the end of that cycle. And now, in the Me Too movement, Black Lives Matter, and if you look at Generation Z, only 20% are conservative. 20% because younger souls are being held back. Old souls, we got to get this thing going the right direction. We know we're
tipping
doing.
the
This is the
scales,
first classroom.
Yeah.
This is the first classroom that we've worked into enlightenment. So I'm saying more old souls are being born now because the cycle has changed.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're going to take 2 more questions. So what were you going to ask? Thank you.
Do you take any credence on dreams as predictors of your past life or your future lives? Because I've had both.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely so. We're spoke to in so many different ways because we all choose our guardian angels before we come here, and our guardian angels will help us in any way. If we need to see numbers, so we're like, I'm a number guy. Okay, you're gonna see numbers. I'm a dream person. Then here's your dreams. I need to feel this. You're gonna feel that. Whatever you need to get those little. We're here. We're helping you. We're helping you. Whatever you need to help you.
I've had pretty specific dreams. Like the year I'm going to come back.
There you go.
And it's really strange to me, and it's like, when I tell my, young nephews, like when I get really old, I'm going to come back and this and that.
Now it's interesting because we can have this vision, but then the trajectory of life is always changing because there's infinite potential. So you may be on that path, and then what if you make a different choice, and then that choice causes you to have a different potential? So there's a lot that we can think about with that.
I really have a strong feeling I'm going to come back.
Yeah, and that's your spirit, your higher self speaking directly to your soul.
Yes, you have. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. And if you guys, we are running out of time. I want to keep on time, but you can always email us at augmentedteachings@gmail.com. We have our business cards. We have everything out there. If you know me personally, you can send me a call or a text or anything. You can check out any of our podcasts. Maybe it'll answer some questions that you guys might have. We usually put a description in the link on any of our videos, so you can kind of scroll through. Oh, this looks interesting. Let me click on that. And we'll take one more question. Cindy, did you have a question or something? something that you wanted to say earlier?
Yeah, going back to the Bob.
Oh, Bob.
Bob, yeah.
Okay, so say somebody is a serial murderer.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay, that soul has never learned.
Right.
Never learned.
So
So that soul will come back to try to learn again and again and again until it actually overcomes the fear and judgment and hate that was within that soul to cause it to kill in the first place.
Because it doesn't have that consciousness yet to understand that this is creating this. You know, whatever comes after that, it hasn't, it's like that puppy, it's going to keep getting shocked by the fence, until one day it's like, oh, I don't want to have that experience anymore. Well, then each time we go back after we're in this physical vessel and we go back to heaven or the other side of the veil, then we look at all of that. And we get to make that choice and say, am I going to come back and continue that cycle, or have I learned enough, consciously? Because when we come to these physical vessels, it's called like we go through the veil of amnesia. And sometimes we forget that we are spirit, we are God in physical bodies.
okay, so if that soul never learned, it's murdered.
It hasn't learned yet.
It's just a younger
so
soul.
Then when the soul comes back again,
It may have to
is
go
it going
through.
to be a murderer again?
No, it may have to go through the process of being murdered.
To know what it's
To know
like.
what it's like through firsthand knowledge, firsthand experience of the event, of the struggle. It'll have to go through it. Then maybe it'll have another chance. It did it again. It lived in fear, not in love. Because fear, all this hate, anger, judgment comes from fear. It lives in fear, and then it'll just keep going down this path until it decides, I'm not going to do it this time. And then it takes itself out of the cycle.
You know what? We started a little bit late, so I'm going to give us a couple more minutes if that's okay.
Are we?
Timekeeper.
That's
Thank
awesome.
you. Yeah, because I do have 2 more questions.
I only have one.
Yes. Hi.
Yes or no? Because of everything that was said, are these teachings, or do you have any knowledge, if these teachings are being shared in prisons?
Yes, they are.
Thank you, Frank. I did not know that.
Oh, wow.
And I think that's really good work because it's helping to wake up these souls and to shift our consciousness. That's what we are here to do. We are here to learn, to grow, and develop. And any ways that we can do that, shameless plug, me and some of my friends in the back here, we actually co-authored a book. It's called The Big E-Power, and it's all about, working with our consciousness. These books are no longer in print, but we got to go through a beautiful experience, and that's how I've come to the understanding that I am now. I will tell you that before I started my spiritual journey of writing this book, being involved with the process of writing the book and coming here to the High Desert Center for Spiritual Living, I am not the same person that I was before. I look the same, I have the same body, I have the same name, but I am not the same. I have been through a huge transformation. Did I have a traditional NDE? Did I die and come back? No. Did I go through meditations? Yes. Did I go through those processes? Yes. Did I have those understandings? Yes. Have I been to the Akashic Records and seen and understood, okay, I went through that experience, so I pulled myself out. If I continue to do and act as that, I'm going to continue to have that experience. I no longer want that anymore. So what can I do in my consciousness to change that? And a lot of that is through the power of prayer, affirmative prayer, affirmations, all of those things, meditation, mindfulness, because then when we can realize that we are here to learn, grow, and develop, and that we all are, and we're all here on our own journey, then it just makes me be able to bring in more love because, oh, you're going through a struggle. I can love you through that. I can love you even more because of that, just like I would helping a kindergartner do their homework. You see what I'm saying? So that's just, I don't know where all that came from, but I wanted to say it, so I said it. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Thank you guys.
This was so powerful. I think you guys ought to take it into meditation and maybe do it once a month live.
That's
I think this would
something
be
fun.
an exciting time. So
Yeah.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you guys so much
Thank
for
you,
being
everybody.
here.
Thank
Thank you.